Written up for not following work schedule. I comply to the fullest. Cast R, me is cook 1, Bob is cook 2, Mia is supervisor, boss names change for privacy. Our workplace follows a bi-weekly work schedule. I am one of 3 cooks that work. I usually work 4 to 5 days per week, interchanging Friday and Saturday 11-hour closing shift and Tuesday and Thursday 6-hour closing with Bob. As Friday and Saturday are the most busiest, and we close at 11 p.m. instead of 10 p.m., as most days. With agreement from our boss, we would switch every schedule. This schedule would be sent in text, and a physical copy at work. Bob was scheduled to work this time, as I gave notice a month ahead for those days off. Boss likes to copy and paste schedules, screws up by posting the physical copy stating I'm supposed work, and text copy as my days off. First week of Mia following the physical copy. She calls me that day, that I'm 30 minutes late, and asking where am I? Confused, I explain the situation that I have my day off, and I can't come in. She interjects saying I was scheduled to work, and that I'll be getting a warning for no-show. The next day, I get a call from boss about my no-show. He doesn't care that the schedule was wrong and not matching. Tells me if I miss today, I'll be written up and that you must follow the schedule at work. He can't schedule anyone else, as nobody wants extra shifts, besides me, Bob, cook 3, and can't hire anyone, as not enough business. Next month rolls around. Bob is quitting, and has already given his 2-week notice. The new schedule shows up, and I noticed the schedules don't match. Bob was assigned to work Friday and Saturday, when he already has quit by then. So after closing Thursday night, I muted my phone from work, and I head home to have a few drinks and a J. Come back to work Sunday, and boss is waiting. Goes at me for missing work, and how he had to fill in for me, as nobody else could. I just told him I was only just following the work schedule exactly. Oh man, he was furious. But after calming down, he 180 degrees, as he had no one the next week to cover those days. I just said I couldn't work those days, as I get back to work just as the lunch rush comes. What makes my MC even better is, next week comes. I'm at my mom's work friend's party. I see my boss's wife there also. I meet her, and have a short convo that led to asking her where boss was. She said he couldn't make it, as he needed to cover some shifts at work. I replied, too bad, he probably should have scheduled someone. Hope you enjoy my MC as much as I did. The HR lady doesn't like me much. So this happened at the company that I currently work for, but it was many years ago. I did not plan the outcome, just a coincidence caused by insisting on malicious compliance. I work in IT, and when I started, my job was rather entry-level, but it was paid as a salaried position. After some years, the company decided to make it an hourly position, which I did not like for a variety of reasons. The company's main hourly worker pool was for manufacturing and assembly line, so the company structured its hourly policies around that position. Rigid start and end times, scheduled breaks, and sick time billed to your earned PTO. A lot of these policies were not really compatible with my availability, and the type of work that I was doing, not to mention some of the benefits changed considerably. Hourly employees were supposed to use a time clock, but those were only in buildings that had manufacturing. My manager at the time totally understood why I was disgruntled, and she came up with a few workarounds. One of which was to enter a generic 40-hour time card for me in the system every week, which was cool cause it meant that I did not have to use the punch clock. If there was any overtime, she would go in and fix it later. There was nothing that I could do about the change to hourly, but being me, I was pretty vocal about it, and my attitude eventually caught the attention of the HR lady. She also got wind of the whole time card deal, so that came to an end. I gave in, and started using the punch clock, no more edits. At some point, my manager needed me to start the day in a different building, which had no punch clock. I don't think she was aware that there was no punch clock, so she had to make an edit to my time card for that day. Well, the HR lady saw the edit, and assumed that I was still being obstinate. Out of the blue, my manager scheduled a formal type meeting with me in one of the local conference rooms. She presents a document for me to read and sign, which is a formal reprimand for not following the policy regarding the time clocks. I was instantly furious because I was following the policy, but she sent me to a site without a punch clock. She had no choice as the HR lady was the one who wrote the reprimand, and told my manager to have me sign it. I read through the write-up, and realized it was very poorly written, like a grade schooler had prepared it. Lots of copy and pasted text, points that did not apply to the issue at hand, and no clearly defined problem with a desired resolution and probationary period. So, I refused to sign. I pointed out the many mistakes, the points that did not apply, and lack of a resolution plan, or time period. My manager agreed with me that the reprimand was BS, but the HR lady wanted to go down this path. I thought, well, then we were gonna do it right, and I was gonna make her work for it. I demanded a rewritten form with a clearly stated problem, a desired resolution, and a time frame for when the matter would be considered resolved. My manager said, the HR lady is not gonna like that. She is gonna want to talk to you directly. I said, good. I will gladly tell her to her face. We scheduled a meeting. I explained to the HR lady that the reprimand process was an opportunity to not only point out mistakes, but also to correct them. The lack of an improvement plan in this write-up meant it could not meet those requirements. Begrudgingly, the HR lady accepted my complaints and agreed to redo the write-up. To my surprise, I never heard from her again about this issue. I had kinda forgot about the whole thing until they did some restructuring in IT, which made me realize I didn't want that hanging over my head unresolved. I decided to formally request a copy of my file from HR, and to my surprise, the reprimand was not in it. I emailed the HR lady asking about this, and she explained that she rescinded it, so it's gone. I was a little confused that she hadn't mentioned this in the months that had passed, but was glad it was over. Sometime later, I was having lunch with my director and he brought up the reprimand. He was asking whatever happened with that? And I told him HR rescinded it. Apparently, HR cannot close a reprimand without the employee's leadership signing off on it, which was about 4 different people. Not a single one would agree to it. It turns out that my malicious compliance with the reprimand process forced her to write a detailed, intelligible reprimand, including an improvement plan. All the extra detail she had to add made it clear to everyone that it was BS, and she couldn't add it to my file. You want the police involved? Okie dokie. So, the day after Christmas, about 10 years ago, my brother called me up and asked me for some assistance setting up some of his new computer equipment. He lived down the road from a store that specialized in discount china, so naturally it was extremely busy. Busy as in, cars were parked everywhere, including on the grass in front of the store, and it was impossible to see around the corner if someone wanted to pull out of the furthest exit. Unfortunately, the speed limit, 50 miles per hour, is also extremely high on the road as well, even if you have to really try to accelerate to get to 50 miles per hour by the time you pass the store. So, I decided to play it safe and was doing roughly half the speed limit, perhaps 30 miles per hour, while going around the corner of this store. Even at this speed, of course some guy decided to pull out without checking, and I couldn't stop in time to avoid hitting him. Now, I was driving an older Mitsubishi that already had some damage, and he had a small dent in his fender. And, come on, it's still Christmas, right? So, I get out of the car, take a look at the damage, and turn around to see a furious, older, red-faced gentleman in front of me. Right after I tell him that it doesn't really look like much damage, so there's no need to contact the police, he proceeds to scream in my face about how I was speeding, and this is all my fault. Oh no honey. A young woman driving by herself may appear to be easily intimidated, but I was trying to be nice. If you want the police involved, let's do it, buddy. I called the non-emergency line, explained there was a very minor car accident, and that the other driver was insisting that it was my fault, so I would feel better if the police were involved. The dispatcher got my information, stopped for a moment, and then quietly thanked me for calling the appropriate number. 911 was hardly necessary, and told me that she also felt it would be safer for me if the police were dispatched. After a 30-minute wait, an officer showed up to the scene. I, not being a total moron, sat quietly in my car, and waited for him to come over to me. The other driver felt it was necessary to leap out of his vehicle and run over to the officer and start screaming and gesturing wildly. I didn't catch what was said, but I did see the look on the cop's face, and I was getting more and more amused. After being clearly told to get back into his car, the cop came over to me, and asked me what happened. I told him what was going on, and that not only had I not deliberately sped up to go the speed limit, I had actually slowed down because of how busy the business was. He nodded, and went back to measure the skid marks on the road, and confirmed he believed I was actually doing about 25 and complimented my thinking on safe driving in this specific situation. He then proceeded to write the other driver a ticket, and the other driver pulled out of the parking lot a second time, with his window down, flipping me off. At this point, the cop came over to me, explained that he wrote it up as the other driver's fault for more than $1,000, due to the damage on his fender. He also stated that, "Darlin', I don't say this often, but I believe you should take that man's insurance company for every dime you can get. Thanks for insisting we call the police."